Alright, so in this video we're checking out the new Wingsuit S from HOMFPV. This is an updated version of the wingsuit that I reviewed approximately a month ago, and basically it's pretty similar in terms of, being a 2.5-inch Cinewhoop with inverted motors. They've updated the stack and the motors and the frame, so it's it's quite a bit different than the original. So here's the original here, and as you can see, I've taken the Vista out of this version and put it into the Wingsuit S. So what they sent me here is actually the version that does not come with the Vista in it. So if you do get that one, it's obviously going to be less expensive. It's like $150 versus one with the Vista already in it. I think it's like $290. And it does come with the Nebula Pro camera if you do get the one with the Vista already in it. But then if you want to add your own and get the version I have here, it's $150 plus whatever Vista version you have, and you can use either the Nebula Pro or the original DJI camera, or even the Nebula Nano. It's kind of up to you what you want to do with that. Now, when I moved over my Vista from the original wingsuit to the Wingsuit S, I mistakenly assumed that they wired it correctly, or the plug was the same wire order, and it's not the same order. So if you do move it over from the original wingsuit to the Wingsuit S, if you happen to do this procedure, you will have to resolder the wires on the Vista so that they're in the correct order for the flight controller. And it does come with documentation on what the wiring order is for this flight controller. So this is the flight controller. It comes with an F7 flight controller now, and this is the plug that it comes with. And so what I did was I moved it over, and I just plugged it in, and I didn't check the wire order, and I just assumed that it would be the same on both. The flight controllers are different, so just be aware that if you do that, you will have to rearrange the order of the wires that are soldered to the Vista so it would match this diagram. And they went away from a single board solution here on the original wingsuit. It's one single board there. I think that was enough for basically an all-in-one board with the ESCs and the flight controller all together. Now they have two boards here with a 25 amp BLE S ESC plus an F7 flight controller. So those are the upgrades there. So I think they did that so that you can, if you want to add a DPS, for example, you could do that. And they upgraded the motors. So you can see this new stack there. The flight controller USB Type-C port is a bit hard to get to. You're going to have to get either a right angle adapter cable, which is what I used, or you're going to have to shave down your USB cable, the end, so that it can fit into the little tiny spot here, or you're going to have to take the motors off. So unscrew these 8 screws here to basically remove the motors, move them down, as well as the prop guards, move them out of the way so you have access to the USB port. So that's a pretty big negative in my mind in terms of the design flaw here. They didn't account for that, or they should have at least included a right angle adapter in the kit. Obviously, I get a lot of drones, so I have a lot of those lying around, but you may not have that, so you can have some problems getting to that USB port. And then, of course, now they've gone to these new 1404 motors. They're pretty nice looking, 4500 kV, and I think they're calling them the chocolate motor. I guess it's supposed to look like melted chocolate on a cake or something like that. Pretty nice looking design. It's a good, powerful motor. Changed the props as well to the Gemfan 5-bladed D63 prop, 2.5-inch prop. Supposedly, like with the frame change and everything, and the props, it's supposed to be less noisy. It does seem a little bit less noisy than the original. Obviously, with the frame kind of blocking the airflow, that has caused more noise on the original here, and they sort of slimmed it down on the new version, so you have more airflow, and so it's a little bit less noisy, along with the change in the props. Also, the change in the motors is the big thing. You're going to get a lot more power with the 1404 motor over the 1106 motor. So if you want to do a little bit of light acro, you can do it with this one. I would recommend using a smaller, lighter battery like the Force 450 versus a bigger one. If you're going for more flight time and less acro, you can go for like a 650 to an 850 to get a lot more flight time. Now, your flight time is going to vary a lot on these Cinewhoops. So on this Force 450, it's going to be much more agile, your flight time is going to be shorter, but the range of that flight time is going to be pretty wide. So if you go full throttle, like drag, drag racing type of flying, just going all nutso on the throttle, you can burn this battery in about 30 seconds. If you're very, gentle on the throttle, just kind of cruising around real slow, you could get up to 4 minutes on this battery. So it really depends on how you fly. Now you go to a bigger battery, it's going to be less agile. It's not going to be as acrobatic. It's going to feel a lot heavier as well. You're going to get more flight times. So the range of the flight time of this one, if you're going totally crazy on the throttle, maybe 1.5 minutes on the low end and up to 5.5 minutes on the high end if you're just cruising around real slow. And if you go to even the bigger, the 4S 850, again, your range is going to go up a little bit more, maybe like 2-3 minutes of going crazy on the throttle versus perhaps up to 7 minutes on the 850, maybe even more, depending on other conditions like the wind. So I get asked that all the time, what's the flight time? It really depends on how you fly it and what battery you use. So the range is going to be pretty wide. Now, again, if you want to do accurate with this one, which you can, which I'm like, well, I would never do it with one of these. You can do it if you want. If you're gonna have to be kind of a skilled pilot, because even with the lighter Force 450, it does still feel heavy. So you're gonna have to be very quick on the throttle to make sure you don't crash it, or be up high in the air if you're gonna be doing your flips and rolls. But the tune on this is pretty nice. It can do all that stuff. While it's a lot heavier than the 95X V3 from Beta FPV, it has a much better tune and a much more powerful setup. So it comes with just basically, this is kind of like a 95X V3 on steroids. It gets totally upgraded. It's got the much better CPU, it's got the F7, bigger ESCs, much bigger motors. So if you're looking for something a little bit more premium over the 95 V3, also comes with a tune that I didn't have to change at all. It just flew nicely out of the box, whereas the 95X V3 didn't fly so well. And the other thing is you get less jello in this one because of the way this mount is designed. Now they've changed the design a little bit as well since I've gotten this. And this is kind of what a lot of these companies will do, especially these newer ones. They'll send out review units, not 100% complete, like almost there, but then they're going to make some changes. So for example, they added some LEDs to this carbon plate board here that holds the Vista. So on the production versions, that's a new change. Obviously, they're going to have a different antenna that you see in the pictures on the Banggood website. That comes with a custom HOMFPV antenna, which is a little bit lighter versus the standard Caddx antenna. And then they changed the mounting a little bit here. Now, out of the box, when I put the GoPro in here, it would just slide. It would basically just move around too much, and any kind of movement would cause this angle to change. And it was because the screw is too long. So I put a little washer there to take up some of that space to tighten down the camera. Now it doesn't do that, so it's fine. I mean, in a real hard crash, it will obviously change the angle, which is kind of annoying. So you probably will need an extra screw there to secure the angle, but I'm pretty sure that this mount design has already changed. So if you order this and get this, it's going to be I think it's going to be a slightly different design where the angle changing on you kind of randomly isn't going to happen. But this one does have a much less of a jello problem because the camera and the GoPro is mounted in sort of a way that there's less vibration getting through, versus on the 95X V3, the FPV camera is actually mounted directly to the frame where where the motor vibration is, whereas the GoPro is mounted to some vibration dampening rubber grommets that prevent the jello from getting to the HD footage, but your FPV footage is full of jello. So that's another change that's better on this model versus the 95X V3. Alright, so here's how much it weighs, and yeah, it's going to be super heavy, coming in at 145.5 grams, and the 95X V3 with the SMO mount, I guess it's not the GoPro mount, it's like 118 grams, so this is significantly heavier. So most of that weight's coming from the bigger stack and the bigger motors. And basically everything's kind of beefed up, even the ducts and everything, or the prop guards, everything's beefed up compared to the 95X V3. But because you have the 1404 motors, you are able to carry around that weight. You just have to be a little bit more quick on the throttle in case you're doing dives and stuff, because it will drop pretty quickly because of the extra weight. Okay, so I'm going to show you some GoPro footage here from the Hero 6, the naked Hero 6 here. And I'm going to list some other additional flights down in the description of the actual DJI FPV camera feed, because I know a lot of you guys are interested in that one and you're wondering how much jello there is. I'll list that down as separate videos in the video description, so if you want to see specifically that, that'll give you an idea of how it's actually flying and how controllable it is, and you'll hear that from my narrated flight at the end here. But the actual video from the narrated flight is going to be from the GoPro, and then I'll list a couple of extra flights down in the description, because I know some of you guys want to see extra flight footage, but don't want to make the video an hour long. So just to make the video a little bit shorter, those will be listed as extra videos down in the video description. So don't miss those if you want to check those out. Alright, so this thing's pretty loud. It's about as loud as the 95XV3, maybe a tad bit louder. Running the same prop with a different motor. Yeah, I got the Caddx Nebula Pro on here. Running the stock tune, stock everything. Throttle's a little floaty. Doesn't drop as quickly. I think it's mainly due to the bigger motors. But it's tracking nicely, not drifting around, and the tune's okay. I'd probably tweak it a little bit. Somebody, I guess, one of you guys asked me a question about this model in another video. I guess some other reviewers had gotten this earlier, and they were saying, I don't know, I didn't watch the video. Someone told me that they watched another review and they're like, oh, they heard it was really quiet. And I was like, I don't know about that. I mean, it's a 2.5 inch propeller. Oh, there's some people over there. 2.5 inch propeller. I mean, how quiet could it be? Doesn't seem that quiet to me. Oh, there's some wind now. Ooh, there's a lot of wind coming in there. So these things are definitely affected by the wind. When it's calm, it looks like it's tracking nicely. But in wind, not so much. These things do get pushed around a lot. Let's see if I can go behind these trees over here. No problem. Alright, so I'm at the end of the battery here. 3 and a little over 3 minutes.